Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Game of Thrones Grand Season Finale. We are going to be moving in here to determine who is going to sit on that final throne of North America. Will it be Jon Snow, or will it be from the wealthy family of the Lannisters, Neeb? My name is Fear Dragon. I'm joined by Zombie Grub, who's swatting at flies and needs to see someone about that. So this PvZ is going to be a bit rough. We were talking about how Jon Snow is kind of Neeb's... Neeb is Jon Snow's arch nemesis. To put this in perspective, Jon Snow has not ever beaten Neeb since Neeb used to play Terran years ago. And every single season of Challenger, Neeb was the one that beat Jon Snow.
Is that
every season of Challenger last year, and also WCS Winter this year?
Is that the one series he's won on Illigalek? Is him as Terran?
It's him against his Terran as the very first match they played.
I got tired of scrolling, you know.
No, it was the very first time they ever faced off against each other, and that was the only time Jon Snow's ever beaten Neeb. So, you know what? I think just before Jon Snow finally retires from StarCraft, I know he just beat Neeb once. This is on his bucket list now for StarCraft.
It's going to be his swan song.
His swan song?
Snow song? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Job Snow is now working, so we'll see. I mean, he's looking really good, I have to say. I was honestly one of the people, Jared, I know you've been listening to the broadcast. I was a little bit skeptical because, you know, you start a new job and it's not always just like, it's not the same as school. Because in school, you can kind of say like, yeah, I'll work on stuff a little bit later or something. You can do your school day and then like practice afterwards. You can still have some motivation for that. A lot of time if you like come back and you're a full-time, or you're trying to be like a full-time software dev or whatever, you come home after a long day of sitting at the computer, the last thing you want to do is sit on the computer for 4 or 5 more hours and play StarCraft because you already had a stressful day. You're trying to work really hard to impress your new boss. You're just starting out your career. It's hard, but Jared has been doing a great job of it. So you know what? I want to see it. I want to see Jared make magic happen today.
I mean, I hear you, Fear Dragon. College students really have to stop complaining. Their life is not that hard.
Yeah, actually. If you just play like Neeb, you will make hundreds of thousands of dollars and all of your college debt will go away. You guys just need to work harder at StarCraft.
Exactly.
Okay, guys, let's jump in and introduce the players. We're going to be starting down here. Top of the red, Zerg player from Storm Gaming. Give it up for Jon Snow. Oh, we don't get
that was a lot less epic without the music. And it already was like struggling to be epic.
Production's just like, well, who's Jon Snow? What?
I'm confused. In the top left, as the blue Brodos, it is Ting's Neeb. You're welcome. There we go.
Yeah.
And the best part is that they stopped playing the music in general, so it's great when there's no music. Thank you.
Right, you got me on that one.
That was good.
You really got me there.
That was good. And just to be clear, you know I wasn't just randomly waving at the camera earlier, right?
I know, but I like to make you look psychotic.
I actually could not have told. I could not tell if you had seen anything but me because you were looking at me. And I was like, has he just like not noticed the monitor in the background?
No, I know. Oh my God, there's something back there?
Oh my God. That's totally not green. Anyways.
So, the big thing about, that we've learned about Neeb is that there are some vulnerabilities he's had. Even that series versus TLO, game number 1, yes, he did defend against the Nidus all-in, that the Idriling Nidus all-in that came out. What?
I'm sorry. No, you finish.
Oh, okay.
You finish.
All right, you got me so... All right, anyways, even though he did defend against it, it did look a little bit tough there. And Jon Snow has said himself that one of the big reasons he was able to make it this far, even though it was a little bit of a sarcastic tweet, was that he had never faced any Protoss players on his journey over here. In fact, qualifying for Challenger, he got knocked out by 2 Protoss players who I think have been coming up in the scene, but are really never supposed to be anywhere near Jon Snow's level, Riser and Creature. They both had great runs through the Challenger bracket and almost managed to qualify, but beating Jon Snow was not supposed to be one of the things that they were able to do, and Jon Snow's clearly been struggling a little bit at ZVP.
Okay, yeah, and maybe at the time you could say, okay, it makes sense because he's transitioning from school to a job, but then today he has outperformed our expectations, done really well. One of the first things that we would think would really fall off for him was mechanics, and he seems to be doing okay there. What I exclaimed about was that I went back to the stats, and it's been a year and a couple of weeks since JonSnow has taken a map off of Neeb.
Yeah, it is actually a psychological block for him that he's talked about. JonSnow's talked about 2 psychological blocks in his StarCraft. One, I think he's gotten a lot better about, which is against top European players, where he would get into, I mean, we've actually seen this before in the past. JonSnow at WCS events, he'd face off versus a top European player like in a laser or something. He would actually get into an advantageous position and he'd throw the game, because he kind of would think of himself as like, oh, this person's just better than me, like I am below them. But Neeb is the other person that happens with for him.
Yeah, I bet. But it's also kind of funny because, you know, you guys are mentioning it, that like Neeb is like a European Protoss.
Yeah.
All things considered.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although he did have a pretty full NA versus TLO, which is great.
Yeah. Okay. So to the builds, we have JonSnow, who has typical stuff going down. He did just get to watch TLO struggle to do much against Neeb. Maybe he read into that. I kind of expected him to be a little bit of a, you know, meme-y, like kind of just like really embrace the whole, like, I don't usually win against this guy, so what do I have to lose? But it is normal stuff, and Neeb is also doing normal stuff. So the Stargate opener, a little bit of harassment that doesn't quite get any kills from it, and into the Archon drop.
Yeah, and I don't really hate too much the idea of JonSnow at least trying to feel out a little bit more of a normal game, because TLO was also doing some weird stuff, right? He was going for all those infestors and trying to go for these fungals and the immortals and stuff. And it's a best of 7, right? You actually do have some games to play around with.
So it's not the... All right, okay, so it's like the timing of the year 0-1.
Yeah, yeah.
There we go, okay.
There's the Templar Archives that you were talking about, and JonSnow's gonna have some time to drone up. He's only sending out 39 workers right now, so he really is on a low work count. He waits for the Roach. Okay, he's waiting for the Roach drone and making a lot of resources. I think he's actually not gonna drone up.
Like nothing happened. There's no reason he should be less workers, but he is
really nice spending of the resources. By the way, actually, he had like a 1K minerals and a certain amount of gas, and he actually spends both of them evenly. Really nice.
So he starts a lair and then cancels it to keep up appearances. That would have been like a almost 5-minute lair, a little later actually, but
it could have been just finishing there, I think is the idea, right, for Neeb, right?
I guess. So he actually kind of got in there at the same time that it started, though.
Oh, yeah.
So I couldn't tell you, but I thought he saw it start. But regardless, like it is, whether it's 4 minutes or 5 minutes or a little bit later, that is still kind of keeping up appearances. You really want to see the mass amount of units right now.
Do you leave the Archon drop on that side, or do you leave any roaches to deal with this?
No.
Okay. Well, drones just getting pulled.
You're pulling the queens as well. Like you just, you hope that they waste time on your drones, I think, and then they don't recall the Archons.
Yeah, the Archons, they're actually not getting picked up into the Warp Prism just yet, and the probes are being retreated, but a couple of them are going down to depth shading into the inside of the wall. 1 or 2 of them will go down first, and JonSnow needs more than a third with this kind of all-in. He has to kill more than just the third.
Okay, so the Archons, so if he's able to jump on whatever army there is, and there wasn't much, so I guess he kind of did, and the Archons aren't home to help defend.
Neeb, why were you outside of your wall? That's all of your sentries. The photon cannons, the shield batters are finishing up. The Ravagers are on the front line. They are getting focus fired down by the cannons, so he's going to lose some of the corrosive biles. And it looks like JonSnow's going to have to retreat down, but there's only one pylon powering all of the shield batters and cannons. Oh, that could have been dangerous.
Very dangerous. So yeah, that was almost a huge mistake from Neeb. As I was trying to say, not enough corrosive biles to kill that. What I was trying to say is that if all the army is pounced upon and then the Archons come back, well then JonSnow maybe actually literally wins, but having Neeb pull everything back into the natural officially and able to save it, he just gives up the third base. The Archon drop killed a okay number of drones because he was already at such a low number anyways, and stopped a bit of reinforcements, so those ended up being okay on the other side of the map. All things considered, this is still a playable game for our Protoss player, but he is not going into the third Nexus. He's actually adding a lot of gateways first and might just be looking for an attack. Regardless if he gets a Nexus or not, he might be looking to gear up a counter.
I mean, if I'm being honest, I actually still think that this is like an advantageous spot for Neeb, right? Because he's still got 3 Immortals. The lair tech is so delayed for JonSnow. He's not even going to have roach speed and stuff, right? The gateway's just finished up. The attack's going to be moving across the map. He's not going to have roach speed for a mostly roach-based army. He's adding on a Baneling Nest now. I feel like JonSnow's going to have a really hard time with this attack, right?
I think he would have to figure out that it is an attack. So, that's still a little bit up in the air, and he is going to try and walk that tightrope.
6 more drones on.
Yeah, so this is the wrong thing to do, right? If that was 6 more roaches, or if the baneling's a little bit faster and it's like 10 more lings or whatever, or banelings, then that might be a little bit different. But I think you're right. It's just a little bit too much that was left over. Even though JonSnow didn't overcommit his army, it just was an all-in that didn't officially work. And he really needed really amazing corrosive battles to actually hold against this.
Yeah, if he had maybe been able to split up his army a little bit, he did kill a lot of the sentries with his attack earlier on, and the Adepts even canceled the shade because they say, no, I can take on this army. And that's exactly what he's going to do. Some force fields keep most of the roaches back. Corrosive biles are on cooldown. Neeb warps in even more units with +1 weapons finishing up. And he shades into the main base where there are no units there to defend. Neeb is looking really, really strong in this first game.
Yeah. Imagine if a couple banelings had been formed, though. A lot of juicy hits with the Adepts and the sentries, and actually the army, without half of the Adepts, was starting to collapse in on what Neeb had, but here come the rest of them. And the Immortals, yeah, they're not really touchable. With the Warp Prism, GG.
Neeb takes the first game in this best of 7, deflecting JonSnow's big all-in, and going for the big counterattack. Really, really well done. It got really scary there for a second when Neeb was outside of his wall-in and lost actually all of his sentries there. Took some damage for a moment, but JonSnow wasn't able to break up the high ground. Nice move to make the photon cannon and the shield batteries, though.
Yes, as soon as he realized something was up, he started making everything that he had to, started transferring everything back, so he had a decent probe count. There is a world where his army was being rallied to the third base and as such dies, and I think that is game. And there's also maybe a world where JonSnow spends less time trying to combat the third base and actually breaks the walls so he can jump on the army. Maybe. Yeah. But I think Neeb just getting any indication that this was on the way was already a pretty bad sign. Very just like, it is actually a good build to try and hide from your opponent. You still got 3 bases, you fake the lair, they see some roaches, like, okay, who doesn't get a couple of roaches?
It's tough to hide too much when you're up against a Stargate opening, though, because we didn't get to see a lot of the Stargate units involved there, but there was the Oracle Phoenix opening. The Phoenix was the thing that saw the Queens added in the center of the map. And then, of course, the Archon drop is also going to get some scouting information, seeing, like, why do you not have them? Where are the drones? Where are the queens? Why do you barely have any roaches here? So it does eventually get found out, and he does react. But yeah, I like it as a build that JonSnow throws out against an opponent that he never beats, really.
No, we were kind of talking about that, and that is just one of the ways you can do it. Nidusworm, roach attack, whatever. But yeah, I think the queens might even be the biggest giveaway. To have 4 queens offensively spreading creep in this matchup, you're going to be like, what? No.
Yeah. One small little addendum that I want to put out there, which not necessarily everyone will agree with me. I don't think this is like true to an absolute, but I do think that of the players out there, Neeb is one of those guys that if you find an all-in like a best of 5 or a best of 3 or a best of 7 against him that works, and we saw this with Idrilling actually, you can actually just do that all-in multiple times because Neeb, I feel like he makes adjustments after a series. He doesn't make as many adjustments mid-series as a lot of other players would. I actually think you have a good chance a lot of the time if you find an all-in that works to just do it multiple times.
I don't disagree. I'm just trying to find a reason as to why that is. Because you're right.
So the way that Scarlett described it to me is that Neeb has this, it's like this is almost, it's not entirely the European mentality, but it's a little bit of that European mentality where Scarlett would say, I could do something like the example she used was I could send in an Overlord to bait a Stalker outside of the wall to go kill the Overlord in the early game and then run Lings in. Right. And I'll do that in 1 game. And then he'll be like, oh, okay, that sucks. I shouldn't have done that, blah, blah, blah. Game number 2, she'll do the exact same thing. She'll send in the Overlord. Neeb will still send that Stalker over and she'll ask him why. He's like, because I should be able to handle it and also defend and like have everything set up. Like theoretically, if I play the way I'm supposed to, I should be able to handle it. Even though it just makes it makes it harder on himself. So the same way, like the whole Idrilling Nidusworm all-in, Neeb should be able to actually defend that, but he has to play perfectly and can't make any mistakes. And he sometimes puts himself in a harder position because of it.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, that is a problem. But in like the you know, haters out there that are like, well, that's a stupid thing to do. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
The alternative is and especially at the very tip top of the pros, is that if you over-defend something, you find yourself behind regardless.
Yeah. This is what I feel like Masa capitalizes on really well, where he goes for like really, really... I have no better way of putting it other than like psychotic ways of playing his strategies, where he will be super aggressive, and then he'll be extremely over-economical the next game and stuff. And it's like, okay, you were overly safe, so now I'm ahead of you. And that's actually, this is a really nice blocking of that hatchery.
It is very annoying. JonSnow went for that pool and is not going to have something to attack it, but he still has to go for the third hatchery instead. I do feel like though with PvT, Neeb does respond a little stronger to those types of things, where you do have Masa get away with 3CC against him after cheesing him, and you've definitely noticed. But it's like this PvZ thing that we seem to always hone in on, and I guess it's a combination of Scarlet being a weird player and being able to take on Neeb, and then recently Neeb, you know, losing to Idrilling, that maybe we're focusing a little bit too much on the matchup, but it does seem like he is even more of like, I should just be able to win, like I don't have to change up.
Yeah. Okay, well, the Lings are going to make their way across the map. They encounter the wall and say, okay, not a whole lot I can do there, especially with the Adept coming out. Actually, funny enough, there was just the probe there, so could have completed the wall, but sometimes it's nice to see the Zerg player chip away at that building wall in. He's actually going to find the probe, the Adept. Ooh, almost could have gotten the surround on that Adept, actually. Got really close to finishing up against the wall.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
That would have been quite clutch timing.
Okay, well, next Adept pops on out. Robo on the way. JonSnow still gets up that third base. Adds on a few more Lings just to deal with the Adept, since 4 is just shy of actually having enough.
So Robo first. We've had him do a couple Stargates. We've had a Twilight Council first.
Ooh.
This is the first Robo first we've seen from Neeb today. I would say, you know, hashtag Immortal Sentry all in, 44 probes. That's what the Koreans are doing, and that is actually what we saw from, for instance, Showtime.
Yeah.
We saw him use this and be aggressive. Sometimes it feels like, you know, as the third party here, it's like, well, shouldn't you expect that once you see it's a Robo? Because there have been cases where they literally scout the Robo.
Yeah.
But, you know, there is the macro versions. There's also the harassment versions into the macro. It's not always the all-in.
I mean, we've even seen, like, 4 Stalker drops and, like, just a Depth Trap. There's, like, other things it could be if you just see a Warp Prism.
Yeah, exactly. And then there is even, it can look close to an Archon opener if you don't see, like, if you don't see the Robo, we see a Warp Prism, right? It's definitely one of those things. And the Stalker, the Overlord, sorry, should usually die to something, so it can't like get the full information, can't get the gas scouts again on this map in particular. But there's nothing to kill it except a Sentry. I mean, that will do the job, just slowly.
Well, the Lings actually do spot out that the Adepts were lifted up into the Warp Prism, so that definitely indicates that, yeah, the Warp Prism was empty, and it's just the Adepts out right now. So a couple of Lings out. But then he actually starts adding on another drone or two, and he is still only sitting on 33 workers, so I don't want to paint this like JonSnow is just saying, yeah, I don't need anything to deal with this. But it does seem like he is just going back into droning now, at least. Yeah,
which is what he should do. Regardless of what's coming for the attack potential of Neeb, he wants to be up at like 50 drones.
Yeah.
Against kind of any all-in, at least 50. But this is starting off very similar to what we saw from Showtime with the 2 Adept harassment. A lot of sentries being warped in back at home. Both gases are being taken, and I think there's one build that only usually is 3, but this is not my style. So we'll see. We'll see. Just waiting for the extra production. Yeah. If it even comes down. JonSnow's Overlord did die, so he is out of options to get the direct scout. It's a Forge. Okay, so he's going to go macro.
Yeah. Well, with the Roachborn also being added on, one thing that's kind of characteristic about, or used to be characteristic of JonSnow in the past, was he oftentimes would actually cut workers maybe like 5 drones before most other Zerg players. We'll see if he does something similar. He is still going to go up to about 49 workers. So with the attack starting to move across the map and the Roach production not even beginning, he's still adding on some of those Overlords. Actually, he has 3 Overlords. He's already got 6 or 30 supply to work, or 28 supply. This is, oh god, he's just gonna die.
This is just bad timing. This is even fully like, this isn't actually even that much, right? It's 3 gateways. It's Twilight Council and Forge behind it, but it is hitting as JonSnow thinks that he doesn't have to react to it, and he's gonna lose his base, and he's probably just gonna lose the game. The drone's coming out, or sorry, the Roach is coming out into these Immortals and still sentries with a lot of energy.
Yeah. At least it's a speedling, so they will be able to run away pretty quickly, but JonSnow's already put in a really all-in-ish position here. He has way more, or he had way more supply finishing up than he actually needed originally. I think he lost an Overlord or 2 there, but Dark's trying to follow this up as well as 5 more gateways because Neeb says, I don't actually think I need to draw out this game any longer than it's already gone.
Yeah, I do wonder if this is already his intention, but yeah, definitely not macro then. Extra gateways, Archon capabilities, +1 in charge. If he does on a 3rd Nexus, maybe he'll use it eventually, or maybe it's just for a fake, or maybe he just won't do it at all, right? He still has his army out in the map, and he'll be able to utilize the gateways as soon as possible with the War Prism, probably surviving all this harassment. And taking down that 3rd base was already pretty bad, but to be honest, JonSnow wasn't like, he wasn't prepared, and he wasn't in like a super good economic state. Like, besides that, it was just always, it was
his
like,
units are in production.
Doesn't have anything.
Yeah, it would have been fine if his units had been produced just like 5 to 10 seconds earlier, and then he would have actually had the units out to at least intercept that and start to combat that, but now he's just in a really awkward spot. Lair is only just now finishing up at the 7 almost and a half minute mark. And he's pushing back these Immortals. He's not taking too much more damage from that, but here's that 3rd base you were talking about that can be used for both a backup expansion if he eventually does decide he wants to try and saturate that up, but it's not necessary. If that for some reason gets killed by like a lane counterattack, Neeb can still probably use this army to try and end the game.
Yeah, I don't think he would mind that.
Yeah.
I don't think so. So, yep, yeah, maybe this doesn't go well, or he decides he can, like whichever, he might produce probes again, but he is totally ready to attack. He's got every upgrade, he's got Archons, not even trying to use the DTs as DTs.
JonSnow hasn't been making any drones ever since that attack came in, though, so he does have a large army over here, and he's engaging almost at open ground, so this is the ideal place to engage, with the Archons engaging directly versus the Lings. They're on the exact flank position that JonSnow tried to engage into. He's going to use these Lings to try and get a wraparound on the Immortals, but so many Roaches are getting pushed back.
Oh.
The DTs kill everything in the main base.
I missed the 2 DTs, but yeah, the other ones were used for Archons.
So did JonSnow, actually.
Yeah. Hey, there
You're
you go.
not alone.
Yeah, regardless of the 16 drones going down, he also wasn't going to win the main fight. The equal army supply with these types of armies in this matchup, not a good sign for the Zerg. So
2-0 for Neeb. Not exactly unexpected so far. JonSnow's tried to do one of the all-ins in game number 1, but then game number 2, it's just Neeb putting on the pressure. And this is one thing that we've been seeing more from, I mean, actually, it's Showtime and Neeb together, where we used to see, especially in like NA or whatever, like some of the EU games for Showtime and stuff, you'd see these guys be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to play the macro game. I'm just going to play normal, standard stuff. And maybe one in every like 15 games they mix in an all-in or something. But both of these guys have been more willing these days to go for more aggressive plays, I'd say more often.
Yeah.
And I like doing this against someone that you think is going to all-in you, because it's like, you're just going to beat them to the punch, right? You're not going to let them play like a weird game. And if they do all-in you, it's like, well, guess what? I was already making an army early on. I'm ready for this.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. It's just it's an interesting build, like for me to watch that, because it was off of only 3 gateways.
Yeah, it
was with the intention to get something else behind it. Where if you're going to all in, usually it's a certain number of gases, it's a certain number of gateways, and it's just like you hard stop on anything else, right? No technology, and yet it was so effective. So I guess that's one of the attacks, not an all-in maybe necessarily, right? But one of the attacks that you should start prepping for before 50. And JonSnow was just caught being too greedy, not quite thinking of that specific attack when he saw that it was a robo.
Yeah,
which I assumed he saw with the Overlord, but I guess to be clear, I didn't actually check that.
Yeah,
pretty sure. I mean,
not too sure either.
Pretty sure he saw it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing. JonSnow, he had like 28 supply available, and then when the attack was about to come in, he was starting up 3 more Overlords, which, I mean, is great in the sense that he would eventually be able to flat out a ton of Roaches, but he had so much supply to work with at that point. So if he had been able to start up some units earlier, like, whole world of different things would have changed. So
4 drones, 3 Overlords, that's 7 larvae. That isn't Roaches, though, because it was also the Roach-born timing that was bad.
That's true. The Roach-born did come down a little bit later on. Either way, guys, it's 2-0 right now in favor of Neeb. He needs 4 to win and be crowned the champion once again. Young Money Neeb going up in game number 3 on Port Alexander. Get your battlecruisers ready.
Yeah, we wish. Quick, Neeb, go back to Terran.
I'm just trying to tilt people who get really annoyed by me not saying get your boats ready.
You can't say that.
Oh, okay.
Now they're going to try and not be annoyed by it.
They'll try, but they won't succeed. This is one thing I've learned about Twitch.
I mean, that's true. But that's about life, like anything, right?
Yeah.
I try not to be annoyed by your puns, but...
Oh, I know. Jeff is the one that takes the most pain from the puns, though.
He takes the most pain out of your lack of worldly knowledge.
Oh, yes. Which I finally learned to abuse now.
Yes.
I can't wait until Jeff comes back to
We're going to assume he's not watching this and give away your secrets.
Jeff is hanging out with family right now.
Yes, he is. He's getting a tattoo done as well.
Showing his office. Yeah. You know, I was like about to say, every single time he goes to see family, it's like he's also getting tattoo work done.
Apparently he's a really good tattoo artist. I looked at the guy's Instagram. He is really good.
I mean, I've seen Jeff's tattoos. They are really good.
Yeah. I basically have 2 or 3 friends that get tattoos. And then I look and I'm like, yeah, that's the guy I get a tattoo from whenever I get a tattoo.
Well, is Shamtu one of those? Because he has a siege tank tattoo.
That's exactly who I was thinking of.
For those who don't know, Shamtu is one of the Brood War community casters who's super duper awesome, runs some tournaments and stuff. But yeah, he goes to Korea and gets his tattoo done.
The guy's line work is amazing.
Yeah.
It's actually super cool.
StarCraft tattoos are great.
Yes. I mean, I don't know. Some of them. The Siege Tank one is really cool. It's weird though. You say Shamtu's like a Brood War guy because like someone in the audience.
He used to be a StarCraft guy.
Someone in the audience.
Storm guy
is coming back from like 2012, and he's like, "Isn't he at StarCraft 2
Isn't he casting to play him daily?"
And then they come back from 2014. Isn't he? Here's the Storm guy.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Isn't he a Twitch guy? Well, you would be correct on that.
That's true as well.
Works at Twitch.
Giving him so much like attention right now.
Guys, go follow him at Liquid Red.
There we go, bringing back the memes from 2012 as well.
Yeah, I thought it would be relevant for all those people that still actually remember Shamtu casting StarCraft.
Yeah. We are just buying time to see what interesting things happen because it doesn't really get interesting until the 7X score is done. The Coroned Adept is the generally expected thing to do.
I think it's a Stargate. There it is.
Well, you're a genius. How'd you know that?
Because he wasn't starting Warp Gate, and also it's Neeb.
Yeah, 100 free gas is being banked up. You kind of figure things out.
Okay, so the Adept shades across the map to try and save that poor little probe who's done nothing wrong in its life. Just Protoss constantly getting abused and harassed.
No. There's no innocent probe.
Yeah, that probe was pretty innocent.
No.
That probe was beat up. Its lunch money was taken. It was trying to go home to its mom to get an apple.
That scouting probe was your sibling in the back seat going, "I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you."
And they weren't touching you.
Rightfully punched them in the face.
Okay, well, did they touch? Did the sibling touch you? I don't think so.
I think Twitch Chat will back me up on this one.
I was the younger sibling, so I don't really side with you on. Actually,
I was the younger sibling, but I wasn't a little shit.
Wow. Okay.
I have strong feelings.
Yeah, I can tell. We do have a Phoenix first opening here from Neeb. I mean, everything is looking very standard for both sides, guys. The double Adept opening, the Phoenix first, the Oracle follow-up over here, the third base here for JonSnow. We are going to be waiting to see what is the next form of tech. Usually it's going to be like a Robo and a Twilight Council or something. Maybe going into more like Archon drops and stuff as a follow-up for Neeb. But anything is open for now. There's that Robo we were talking about, and there's the Lair.
Yeah, a little fast, but I don't think it's anything nefarious.
I mean, it's faster than the 7-minute Lair last game.
Yeah, 345 and beyond is like, I guess, the the normal stuff.
Yeah, Sport Call is getting started up in time, so they'll be very much ready for the Oracle. By the time it actually makes its way across the map, there's the Twilight Council coming up, and a couple more gateways being added on, going up to a total of 4, which, you know, does look suspiciously like a Archon drop.
I was going to ask you, and I was going to be like, you're going to impress us again, but it's going to be following up with, and you did. You know what the saddest thing is? I know we've talked about this a lot, where it's like, casters will make correct calls every so often, but most people don't like care or recognize them. I'm like, yeah, the +1, the Masa going and adding on 2 additional barracks and the 3x Reaper and going to +1 like weapons really fast. I feel proud about that one. No, you really should.
I'm pretty sure no one will care.
No, probably not.
Probably not.
The Phoenix went down. The Phoenix went down. The Oracle barely alive, but that's all that matters, so it gets a revelation. And can help out, I guess, if there's a Link Swell on the 3rd, which he is definitely intending to take and use. JonSnow going in right into those Hydras.
Yeah, pretty early on, just on 52 workers. Actually, less when he started out at the Hydra Den. So he's actually going to have a pretty quick answer to the Archon drop before it really even hits. The War Prism's out and the Templar Archives is finished. High Templars are morphing into Archons soon. Oracle takes some damage to the Queen. Oh, boy.
I thought that was dead for sure.
Yeah. But the Hydras are going to be out by the time the Warp Prism actually makes its way into one of those bases.
Yeah, I think if this is just directly into the Archon drop and you're going Hydras, you're going to have like a little bit of a tough time as Lings try and deal with them and the Queens try and help. But with the later timing, after the Stargate, the Hydras will be kind of like in the nick of time, and now it's a little scary for the Archons. If it's just, okay, this is not scary for them, but if it's like 7 Hydras with their range.
Oh, the War Prism's going kind of far. Okay. No,
then they need to be careful.
Yeah. It's Neeb, so unfortunately you do still have to respect it a lot. But that is a lot of Hydras being added on. This is not just like a few Hydras to push back the War Prism. This is enough that I actually feel like he's going to be gearing up for a big attack soon. That's
interesting. Well, you could be right. Usually, like the old saying is that for attack speed for defense range. Now that's you know, not always 100% the case. Range helps go over force fields. Range helps deal with the Warp Prism. You know, so on and so on.
Oh, he gets an Archon. He gets a second Archon as well. Okay, that is a huge deal. Yes, the timing for those Archons and the Warp Prism to get more damage done has passed, but that was going to be a large part of the defense early on for Neeb.
I'm not going to say it's because of the range, but it helped.
It did.
That's exactly
it did help quite a bit.
That's exactly what JonSnow wanted to have happen. I mean, if he doesn't take out the War Prism, then at least it's not here else to defend.
He draws all the sentries over to this ramp, so now the Hydras can move safely up this ramp.
Wow.
And the Immortals, the Hardened Shields have already been set off. The Lings are trying to buy a little bit of time. Force fields do come down, and the Hydras are forced back.
I don't know why. Oh my God.
Is Neeb actually just easily defending
I don't know. I saw him move his army into the middle of what looked to be a sandwich, and I was like, well, this is just silly. And then he just holds. So I think JonSnow got caught up with a couple of Zealot Weapons at the third base, so the sandwich never happened. And then the Hydras do not move past force field, so it ended up working perfectly.
Zombie Grove, can we nerf Neeb?
Well, we need him. We need Captain America.
But Pult is back.
So the next attack will have speed, but is this actually enough?
I mean, there's charge now on these Zealots, so they're going to slaughter the Lings. The Hydras are not going to have long on this world, and the Archon's even still back over here and tanking a bit of damage. The Immortals are there. The Sentries somehow managed to survive through that fight. And JonSnow did commit a decent bit of his Lings, and also the fact that he didn't make a 4th base to this.
Oh yeah, he's super committed. I mean, this is kind of one of those, it's not with Banelings, but off of the 55-ish worker Ling Hydra attack. I mean, that used to plague the ladder in tournaments. Now, that was also when the upgrades were combined, but the idea is still there, and it absolutely failed. It got the Warp Prism and 2 Archons, and immediately tried to follow up, and Neeb just dealt with it and is in a fantastic position up in workers with an upgrade, with a better army. All he really needs to do to make sure that he never loses this game is probably get to Storm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do it.
I mean, Zombie Grove, I can look at like the earlier stages, the middle stage of this game, and I can say, yeah, you know, Neeb really did this well, and JonSnow maybe got outplayed at this part, that part. That whole attack there, that whole sandwich and everything from JonSnow, I thought that was expertly done. I have no idea how if that didn't work, I don't know how JonSnow makes that attack work.
I literally think that it's the difference of those Lings, and like there's like 1 or 2 Hydras, it was kind of weird.
Yeah.
But the Lings on the 3rd run over to the Immortals and get us around, and the Sentries, right? So they can't get to the ramp, and the Immortals have their shield popped. I think that's the difference. At least making it close.
Well, when the WCS replays are released, ladies and gentlemen, you guys can test Zombie Groves 3 with the Resume from Replay feature.
That's
available
true.
in StarCraft 2 now for free.
The most, like the best feeling I've ever had is like, just like totally there was a guy that was a know-it-all, right? Just complete know-it-all, and I was like, look, okay, there's room for replay, and I'll do it this way. And I was right. I was right. I felt so validated.
That's great.
Yeah, you guys can do that too.
You too can prove your friends wrong.
Yeah, you too
and make them feel bad.
Rub it in their face.
Yeah. This little micro with the Hydra, but he does end up losing it and should be able to take care of these Zealots. But guess what? The rest of the army is making its way across the map, and JonSnow has to keep that 4th base alive. This is going to be a wide open area, But Neeb wisely picks off those Hydras on the north side so he can't get flanked by them. And, Disney?
No.
Oh.
Nope. No, I was gonna make a pun.
Okay.
But then I was like, I'm being rude. I'm interrupting you.
Oh, it's okay. I will always be interrupted for a pun. I also don't have a ton of faith for JonSnow to be able to win this fight, but you know, he is sitting up a lot of army supply. It's just the storms are really scary. This is a nice pickup. Killing off the 4th base. I don't think it's going to be worth it if JonSnow trades a 4th for a 4th, but it's not a bad start.
Well, the best start is that he gets the 4th and he draws the army into an awkward position, which he was kind of close to do. It's just that the army...
This is a sandwich coming in from every single angle. Now, Neeb does go after the hatchery, making sure he gets a guaranteed damage on the storm coming in from multiple sides. But there's still a good flank of these Hydras coming in. Stutter stepping forward onto the Immortal. It's going to be able to take out every single one of those. And Zombie Grub, I'm ready to eat my words. And oh boy, are they delicious. JonSnow looking like he might be able to get into a good position in this game against Neeb. But there's a lot of High Templars that are just warped in. And if they have time to build up energy for Storm, this gets scary.
Yeah, they can retreat into some stasis traps if Lings are getting on top of them, but we don't have any Lings. A lot of these Hydras are very low, so the Charge Lot's initial swipe or even getting the kills.
70 energy.
Yeah,
5 energy away.
JonSnow, he's going to be facing Storm with a very vulnerable army.
That's it. Suddenly, as of right now, Neeb now has 6 Storms. In that few seconds, that was the difference between 0 Storms and now 6 Storms.
Yeah. Is it going to be enough? There's still a very wide concave of the Hydras. They won't be taking the max damage from said storms. It was 6 of them and continued warp-ins. It is a matter of time before Neeb once again takes the dominating army type.
Yeah.
And if he holds here, JonSnow is back also to 3 bases.
Yeah, JonSnow trying to do some clever tactics with the Changelings, trying to block off some of the area that Neeb was started stepping back to, but Neeb quickly deals with that with the Archon. And now we end up seeing that Neeb feels comfortable trying to take a 4th base. Is this an overcommitment by a little bit? He is going to be engaging into a very, very wide open area over here, and he's trying to retreat back to that 3rd base. Photon Cannon starting to get involved in the fight. Charge Lots being warped in. High Templars morphing into Archons. There's no more Storms left over, but the Hydras are so low on hit points, and he is getting forced back. Neeb holds yet again.
Yeah, very close stuff, but he does still have all those Immortals alive, regaining any shields that were popped. He has a couple of Archons, I believe, now, and does have at least 2 High Templars for continued storms. JonSnow also grabs his 4th base, but I think his next problem, now that we've kind of calmed things down here, is what do you do against that Protoss army, right? Archon, Immortal, Charge with upgrades with Storm. What do you do against that? We have people that drop against it, you know, try and pull it out of position. We have people go right to Brood Lords. And Lurkers can sometimes buy time, but against kind of Immortals, it's not really it either. It looks like JonSnow's plan is to just try and match the army to army. And while it's like his army could be technically inferior, if he gets a surround again with Banelings, which he's adding in, that's how you still win on that lair tech.
Yeah, +2 weapons is also on the way, which is not necessarily going to tie up the upgrades because +3 weapons is about to finish up there for Neeb, but it is at least something. He's not going to be falling super far behind on that. Multiple Immortals on the way here for Neeb as well. This is still a big ask for him. That last big engagement that JonSnow took versus Neeb, that was the miracle engagement. Wishing for a second one of those versus someone like Neeb, it's asking for a lot.
But he's not just asking for Neeb to make a mistake. He has given himself the opportunity to do really well with it because of this creep spread.
That's very true. And look at this. He knows exactly where Neeb's army is. He's splitting up his army into 2 different segments, ready to pounce on this. And he's actually controlling this pretty well. Yeah,
a couple of Zealots went down there, I think, to just harass, but they also did a good job of scouting. He does not want to be surrounded here.
Neeb actually has a bunch of Immortals sitting over outside of his natural and moving down to his 3rd. So he himself, if he got flanked, he would be able to flank one of the flanks.
The flanker flanks.
Yeah.
And flanks and wins. Yeah.
I heard you like flanks, so I decided to flank your flanks so we can flank when you flank.
Yes, something like that. There's such a... Oh my god, the amount of creep spread in the bottom here is
okay,
kind
on the north side, we also see that Neeb is getting pounced upon by the Hydras, but most of the Banelings have been taken care of. A few more kind of rolling on in, but JonSnow taps out.
I said that was an issue, because it absolutely wasn't. Didn't even matter. Yeah. He actually did face most of the army off of creep. And it looks like the army, just simply put, wasn't quite big enough. Like, same army comp, completely maxed out, finding us around, still has a chance. But as late as that they were off creep, Yeah, I guess that just looks easy.
Something I want to highlight there that Neeb did, which a lot of Protoss players would not do, is actually while his army was fighting there, this like a massive surround that came in from JonSnow a little bit later on than this little segment we're seeing over here. Neeb actually, during that fight, warped in the High Templars because we were talking about those 6 High Templars that didn't have energy for Storm. It was right as this army was breathing its final breaths that like those extra couple of seconds that actually allowed him to finish up the Storms. Because imagine he warps in those High Templars 6 seconds later and JonSnow is able to engage 6 seconds, or which basically becomes like 2 to 3 seconds before the Storms are there. He snipes off those High Templars. I actually think that's how JonSnow could maybe win that, but he doesn't.
It was very specific math.
Yeah.
I'm kind of with you. I think that it would have certainly been more exciting, but I still wonder with just the... So first of all, it's always hard to tell exactly when the High Templar has Storms, when it's the difference of 68 energy and 75, and they start off with like 65 or whatever, right? 60?
Yeah.
Something like that.
60,
Anyways,
yeah.
It can be very difficult. You are taking a gamble, so you don't usually just like run your stuff in there unless you are literally gambling. And then with the charge lot amount, the warping amount that Neeb still had with his full economy and production, I almost want to say that there is always a scenario that he buys time.
Yeah,
I want to say that, but you're true that actually could not... That's not always true. Not always.
I'm looking for ways where JonSnow could have come back from a game that was already looking really bad.
No, that is the way he does it. Or Baneling's roll in or something.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, JonSnow gets close to taking game number 3, but he wasn't quite able to make it work. And now Neeb sits up 3-0. We're going to give both of these guys a bit of a break, take a breather, think about what they're going to do in game number 4, because it's going to be a big one for both of these guys. We'll see you guys in a little bit. Don't go anywhere. You're watching WCS Challenger. Back to the intermission point of our Game of Thrones season finale. We're excited to jump into the second part of this season finals, but right now things are looking very grim for our heroes. Jon Snow now sits on the verge of defeat here. We're going to see if we can bring this back and reclaim the throne that some say was his birthright.
I'm not going to lie, if this is like the finale of Game of Thrones, it's pretty lame. But then many people said that the last episode was pretty lame. So
wow,
also
okay.
Some people will start they're watching Game of Thrones, or it's done. It's done actually.
I'm watching Game of Thrones right now. We're all watching Game of Thrones as we get ready to move into game number 4. That's now going to be match point for Neeb. As the game gets started, we're moving to Automaton, and this is Zombie Grub. This is the map. This is the map to go for a Ling all-in or a Nidus Worm Idgerling build, like something. Jon Snow, get in his face. I want to see this game.
Maybe he doesn't know the build.
He has been busy. I mean, I know he watched those games. He was playing in that group. He was adamantly watching and saying, easiest money of my life.
That's true.
Because he was watching how he dodged Neeb in the group stages. And now he has to face him here and he's like, okay, this is finally my time.
Yeah. But is it too obvious?
Who cares? It might be as good of a chance as he's got.
I'm actually with you. Jon Snow has tried 2 different all-ins. Both failed.
Cheese Snow.
And then he has yet to try Nidus Worm.
Yeah.
I think you should. Nidus Worm's ready to go. No? You're not going to do it? Oh, actually, no. This is a 15 hatch. This is something weird.
Okay.
16 hatch, you get the, maybe the queens all together and a little bit faster and whatever, but the 15 hatch is not really something that you do unless you're doing something that's meant to be a little weird, because then you usually follow up with the faster pool, but then he doesn't do that, so I'm not sure anymore, and I just give up. Goodbye. This is your cast now, Fear Dragon.
That was a fun journey you took me on, Zombie Grub. I'm really excited by where we landed.
Why 15 hatch? I guess, oh, you know what? It's just because it's such a small map.
Because 789?
I feel like I kind of forgotten that was a thing on super small maps, but
the main to main distance on this map is still pretty long, though. I don't think the probe, because I know this because I go for cannon rushes every game. When I send my probe out, I don't get there in time on Automaton to block the hatchery usually.
So I'm not too crazy in that this has not been what they've been doing. 16 hatch has been what they're doing. But
to be entirely honest, and I could be wrong about this, I'm ready to be proven wrong by Jon Snow. I could very well see this being Jon Snow being down 0-3 and he made a mistake.
True. True.
True as a Psystorm Gaming Zerg player.
Yeah, he's Jon Snow's teammate.
Indeed.
That has something to do with something. We brought it back.
So, probe's going to tase around at that drone, but 4 Lings on the way, so he's going to have to get on out of there if he wants to stay alive. But it could just try and get a scout out on the 3rd base, because I'm sure Neeb is thinking, much like we are, that of course Jon Snow could always go for another all-in or something. So it'd be nice to get a scout out on that, but the Lings are here and going to chase that back. Probe maybe try and dart around to the 3rd. No, just goes back home. We'll go to the safety of the Adept, as it always does.
Exactly. Probe doesn't have to be here. The Adept will follow up, and then the Orc will follow that up. And there's a very, very small timing, if you're clever, if you avoid these units, that you can do like a Baneling Bust. But I don't want Jon Snow to do a Baneling Bust.
You don't?
Or even a Groundling all-in. I want to do a Nidus Worm. What? My birthday. Do it, Jon Snow.
Pause. Darers, pause the game. We need to send a message to Jon Snow.
I kind of felt bad because there's a couple people in chat that were like, this is just a meme, right? And I was like, oh yeah, I guess it is kind of a meme when like casters are like, yeah, it's his birthday. Happy birthday.
It actually is your birthday.
Yes.
It's not a meme.
I officially turn another year.
Yeah.
Older.
As opposed to another younger.
I mean, I want to specify.
Yeah. Just in case. Well, we got a Phoenix follow-up with the Stargate, and we have a Twilight Council on the way before the Robo. So see where Neeb takes this. I wouldn't be surprised if it's just the same old, good old standard. If we end up seeing another Robo being added on after this.
Yeah, isn't Robo then?
Robo's supposed to come down around now.
Like, isn't it
another gateway being added on?
Close to each other?
Yeah, usually put them down pretty close to each other so you can have time to get out the Warp Prism and send it across the map by the time the Temple Archives finishes.
Do Resonating
So I don't think so anymore.
He did show us a charge.
Yeah,
opener with
oh yeah.
Later, like a tiny bit later of an Archon drop.
Well, if he is going to go for that kind of charge, okay, 4 gateways being added on, that's 6 gateways total so far. He could still even add on even more, but this is definitely going to be hyper all-in here for Neeb. What is JonSnow's plan?
Okay, he's taking out a gas. Let's charge. Let's charge. Yeah. There it is.
Good
hey!
Call. Wow, Zombie Grub, you're so smart. Congratulations on your birthday. You are proven to be the smartest person in the room. That was the only competition, but it's still impressive.
You just ignited Twitch chat, by the way. It's just flames. Yes.
It was worth it.
This is the charge lot all in. Something that we kind of like threw out there in the last series that they maybe could have done. He didn't end up doing it. So if there was a scout on this, sometimes it looks a little bit different. Best way to scout it, besides literally seeing the mass amount of gateways, might be the gas timings. You know, first of all, no gas in the natural, and then the main base is not gas in it at all. Keeping up appearances, I suppose, with the probe.
Yeah.
The Lings do not go after it, and they are denied access into the natural. Of which, you know what? If they had like gone up and saw 3 extra zealots, I mean, that would have been suspicious for the Warp Prism drop, but...
Yeah, so here's the thing. JonSnow just added on 3 more drones. I think he's actually already dead.
He's like totally in the dark.
Not just in the dark. I am really, really afraid 51 workers is a lot for this particular all-in, because this isn't like the 44 worker all-ins that a lot of pros players will do. This is a 36 probe, no gas all-in that hits insanely hard. JonSnow is now starting up 10 roaches, but only about 7 are going to be out by the time these zealots get into the range of the hatchery.
Instant bopping on that queen. You get on top of the roaches when they're not together, and you're going to take them down one by one. If they ever collect themselves and get into a nice little mineral patch or something like that, then it could be the start of a hold. We were talking about very fast warp-ins. Suddenly 7 zealots become 14, become 20. It gets really scary. And this actually what's happening here. 5 roaches kind of caught on top of these means they're all going to die.
Yeah, Zombie Grub, just to put this in context, there are 18 zealots out and only 10 roaches, and a zealot wins in a one-on-one fight versus a roach when you give it charge. Even with the micro, it's damn hard to micro against this many zealots, and there's the next round of warp-ins. I love this 4-crawler burrowing underneath the warp prism, and Neeb is a little bit slow to react to that, but the warp prism still doesn't take that much more damage. It's still alive. Ooh. Okay, it might die to a queen now, but there it is. GG, Neeb takes the 4-0 and is once again the king of North America. The Lannisters win.
Oh my. Do they though?
Congratulations to Neeb once again. If anyone doubted that Neeb was the best player in North America, he has absolutely proven it yet again, and did it in really, really convincing fashion.
But Twitch chat, what about Scarlet?
She doesn't belong here right now because she's playing a GSL. She doesn't get to play.
Not considered.
She is
part of the Americas anymore.
You know, you were there for this conversation. I asked Scarlet, "Do you consider yourself an NA player?" She's like, "No."
Oh, that's true. I was there.
It was in Korea, and I was very sad, and I had a lot of soju that night after that. But you guys see, of course, that charge lot all-in looks super duper strong. Neeb did a great job of hiding the build, and JonSnow just getting caught off guard. There's not even a lot of strategy past that point. If you don't see it coming and you don't prepare, you kind of just die like that.
Like, I'll give props to the whole, like, you know, the pro being sent out thing, fake, but I'm going to just go ahead and say that JonSnow was probably just not expecting an all-in at all. He was like, it's Neeb. He doesn't have to all-in me. to win, but he can also do that to win.
Absolutely. Well, JonSnow, of course, getting second place is still an awesome finish for him. He's going to walk away with $1,200, and Neeb walks away with $1,600 for first place. Here is the recap of the day for North America. You guys got to see that 3-1 start the day off with Masa versus Peely. Peely actually putting up a pretty decent fight versus Masa. I think better than a lot of people considered. JonSnow versus Silky was a very interesting ZVZ as well. I don't get to cover a lot of the other matches.
We don't care about the other ones.
We don't care. It was all JonSnow versus Silky was the only one that mattered. No, but that was a really cool match as well. And of course, we got to see a lot of other great matches. TLO versus Estrella, Puck versus Neeb. I have a great memory.
You do.
Get Wreck Production. I still got it. I don't remember the JonSnow versus Masa for the semifinals, and of course TLO versus Neeb. Poor TLO, getting knocked out by Neeb again.
Yeah.
But ladies and gentlemen, that is gonna do it for Challenger Season 1. Zombie Grub, it's your birthday. What are your closing thoughts?
Everyone be nice, be excellent to each other. There we go.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bill and Ted Most Excellent Adventure. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you guys at WCS Spring. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Happy StarCrafting.